Well, it was a choppy day of trade for US markets. In fact, they were sharply lower in early trade yesterday. However, there was a large reversal through the day, and the Nasdaq actually ended up in the green. It closed absolutely flat, but with a positive bias, 6 basis points higher. But when we look at the Dow, it saw its sixth straight day of losses, down around a third of a percent, and the S&P 500 was down around 13 basis points. More tempered fall for the S&P 500. However, the S&P 500 is closed below the 4,000 mark now, and it touched its 52-week low. And the second important metric to keep in mind is the Nasdaq, despite being absolutely flat, in fact up around 6 bips, is down 29% from its all-time high. So those are the two key metrics that one would look for in terms of negative cues. When we're looking at inflation and the like, producer price index for the US showed an 11% year-on-year rise for the month of April. Certainly that will continue to weigh on markets overall. When we're looking quickly on to Europe, well, European indices were largely lower. Mind you that US CPI inflation number is definitely proving to be the drag even in Europe. In fact, the FTSE was down around 2/3%. The FTSE was down around 1.5+%. The DAX was down around 2/3%, and the Stock 600 was down around 3/4% in trade yesterday. And when we're looking at how indices have opened early in trade today, there's definitely a positive bias after that recovery in US indices. In fact, US futures are looking higher. The Dow futures in the US is looking over 0.5% in the green at the moment, so definitely positive cues coming in. The S&P 500 futures too looking towards that 4,000 mark. 3950 is what they've crossed up around 2/3% plus, and that has largely led to a bit of a tailwind even for Asian markets. The Nikkei in fact is up over 2.5% in early trade. Shanghai up around 3/4%. The tech heavy Hang Seng, which has been beaten in recent weeks, is up around 2+%. The ASX 200 up over 1.5%, and the Kospi is also up around 1.8% in trade today. So definitely positive cues. When I'm looking at the SGX Nifty, it's a more tempered start for the SGX Nifty. It's up 1%, but it's very close to that 16,000 mark. So just below that 16,000 mark is where it's trading at. So definitely positive cues coming in for global indices as well as for Indian markets. Moving quickly on to commodities, well, oil has moved slightly higher. It continues to inch higher. It's at around $107 a barrel now. Gold has moved in fact a little lower, continues to be under some pressure, gold, and it's at around the $1,820 a barrel. And when we're looking at the US dollar, absolutely flying away, right? Very close to that 105 mark is now where the dollar index is. It's at 104.9, and the US 10-year yield, which fell off a little bit as buying pressure intensified for lower risk assets, has now started moving up again. It's up around 7 bips this morning, and it's at around the 2.89% mark. So very close to that 2.9% again. Lastly, when we are looking at cryptos, cryptos were deep in the red since the last few days, and cryptos currently are continue to be under pressure. So Bitcoin is below that $30,000 mark, and largely cryptos will continue to be under pressure as heavy risk assets continue to be under pressure.